maybe put the YouTube channel put the live stream on mute and feed us questions if they come in. That would be much appreciated. All right, so a little bit about the DLT sandwich. So why DLT sandwich? Well, 12 noon Eastern time is a good way to get a good chunk of the world in. I apologize to the folks in Australia and the folks in Hong Kong time and stuff like that, Singapore, that this might be kind of an odd time, but we get the Pacific Coast folks. We get basically all, most of the North American, South American continents, and then we get quite a bit of Europe as well. So this seemed like a good time to do it, and plus leaves the evenings open and stuff. And what better way to celebrate the stuff that happened in the previous week and over the weekend, getting together with some folks that we're familiar with, some familiar faces in the Hbar community, and talk shop and do that. So my name is Jeremy Fletcher. I am the CEO and co-founder of Wallawallet. You can see our little logo there. We built Wallawallet to be a safe and secure, stable mobile wallet for Hedera Hashgraph and Hbar, and now we support for Hedera token service. So we've got awesome Jam tokens. We've got Hbar. We support all the wonderful Hedera tokens that are coming out, and we've got lots of improvements coming down the line. So stay tuned for Wallawallet. I want to take a brief moment to thank Brandon for being here, Tim, Brando, and Laurent. Appreciate you being here. And also want to throw a shout out and quick moment of appreciation to Andrew Antar and the team over at Tune.fm for being generous and letting us have some promotional Jam tokens to give away. So big shout out and many thanks to the Tune.fm folks. So the way that I wanted to do the DLT sandwich, right? So if you think of a sandwich, you've got it's got different layers. So we're just going to kind of take a little layered approach to this, get into a little bit of market news, kind of talk about how things went last week and over the weekend a little bit, and even maybe the first part of Mondays. It's a little hard to get all that market data ready for the meeting because it's happening 24/7 and it's live all the time. So a little difficult to get exact up-to-minute data there, but we're going to go over some market stuff. I want to go over some Hbar news. I'm picking out some topics that are of importance and things that interest me and hopefully interest the rest of the users out there as well. And then we'll finish off with kind of some picks of the week and just some kind of choose your own topic. It's so it is the DLT sandwich. We are, of course, as you can tell, we're Hbar folks here, but we're happy to talk about all kinds of other projects and see how they collaborate, see where we fit into this crazy wide world of cryptocurrency, metaverse, all those things that we want to build bridges and extend our hands and tokens of friendship and all those kinds of things. So it is the DLT sandwich. Happy to talk about anything that folks have on their minds. If it's DLT related, just throw it out there in the chat and we'll get to it. All right, so Market Mondays, here we go. And if you're liking what you see, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join us. We're going to be doing this every week, so join us again. You get a lot of opportunities to get these token giveaways and stuff. So without any further ado, let's get into the Market Monday stuff. So kind of a rough week. Not the best week that we've seen for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Hbar, just general market. Not feeling all that great in the past week. So we had Bitcoin started at 43,000, 43.16 thousand. So we were just above 43,000 at the beginning of the week, down to 40,000, just over 40,000 with a loss of about 7% over the week. Ethereum, pretty much the same story. Started off at 3,290, down to 3,046 at the end of the week, down about 7.5%. Hbar from .217, so just under 22 cents at the beginning of the week, down to just under 20 cents, .1975 for the week, down about 9%. So, not really shocking numbers in the cryptocurrency space. I mean, we're all pretty familiar with seeing these, ups and downs. And of course, when I think of traditional markets, to see, 9% drops in a week, people be crying in their beer. But no, we're fairly accustomed to that here in the crypto world. So total market cap down from, we started at about 2 trillion and then down to 1.88 for a loss of about 6. I'm going to go ahead. You know what? I had intended to share the screen so people could look at what I was talking about. Let's see. All right, so here we go. We've got markets, the total market cap So, just a rough week in general. Let me scoot that window. There we go. All right. Yeah. So as you can see, we were floating right around here, around the 2 trillion mark, and then down she goes. And then basically similar story with Bitcoin, Ethereum, same story. These charts, as we're familiar, as we're aware in the crypto space, I mean, these charts all start to look pretty familiar. So they tend to fall, fairly lockstep. Of course, you get your outliers, but yeah. So we got the Hbar weekly chart here, Bitcoin, and then a month on the total market cap. But yep, started up here, had a real rough beginning to the week. Not a great beginning to this week either. So we'll see how that pans out. So I'm going to go ahead and stop that one. All right. So Brandon, any comments? Any thoughts about how the market's looking this week? You've got a lot of insight. You talk to a lot of folks. So looks like in general, sentiment is fairly down. Couple things about some outlooks. So looks like the 100-week moving average is at 35, or just above 35,000. The 40-week moving average at 46,000. We were close to a target of almost 51,000 in late March, but we fell short. So right now, the 46,000 level, that 40-day functioning as resistance on the top. And of course, by the way, folks watching, this is not investment advice. We're just a bunch of people on YouTube taking a look at the markets and giving this our best shot and giving this our opinions. So some support around 35,000. You're going to be seeing short-term buyers in that 35 to 40,000 range, and with resistance at that 46,000 mark for Bitcoin. So what are your thoughts in general, Brandon? How are we looking this week?
Yeah, I mean, this, like you said, this is to be expected. This is what the crypto market does. I was holding on to hope for a long time that the end of the bull cycle hadn't ended. But I guess my base case right now is that the main run up has taken its course. That this year is going to be a little bit of a challenge, and not just because of the historical 4-year cycle that's going to possibly cause some pressure for us, but also we're going through a tightening cycle from the Fed. All right, so that's going to be a headwind as well. Jordan pointed out that 2017 was also a tightening cycle for the Fed, and Bitcoin had a fantastic year. That said, it also aligned with that 4-year cycle, so it did a little bit better. So I do think the base case is we could be under some pressure this year, but this is when people should get more excited. Last year, going into this year, was the time to possibly divest some. Anybody who's watched me from the beginning knows that I'm an investor first, but I also do some trading. And I did sell some Hbar last year during the year, following my dynamic investment program. That's pretty standard. About 20% from my peak right now. I will say that I'm starting to acquire again, net acquire Hbar at this point. This is the stuff that makes me excited, right? So, we talked about way back in the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020, how rough the Hbar market was. But even if, they talk about people selling and all that kind of stuff, and that was a fantastic opportunity. I have to thank the sellers back then, because it gave me the opportunity to buy Hbar at 1 cent. The next 18 months may provide, another fantastic opportunity. Again, it's not investment advice, like you said, but what I'm doing with my money, as I said, I'm a net buyer at this point, or a net acquirer at this point, as far as Hbar goes. So this is what gets me excited. I like seeing the markets down a little bit. It does hurt a little bit on one side of your brain, but on the other side of your brain, you're thinking, oh, this is the time to possibly get involved and get excited.
Yeah, and this is why it's good. It's always good for instances like this to have a little dry powder in the keg, so you can, pick up a little something and not be fully saturated and empty on cash. So not necessarily a bad idea to have some cash on hand for opportunities like this. Hey, so Captain Brando, if you got any comments on the markets at large before we move on? Captain Brando, maybe he's keeping his eye on the chat for us.
The other thing, I mean, you mentioned, that the big caps, the Bitcoin and Ethereum are off a bit. They're bumping up against Bitcoin, has support, like you said, in the 37, 38, low 39,000 range. And we did see a jump off of that this morning, which is good. Hbar had support around any place from, the mid 18 to 19 and a half cents in there. We broke through that. We've popped back up a little bit. Of course, Ethereum had support around 3,000, that nice round number, and we've broken through that as well. But Ethereum's down over 9% on the week. Bitcoin being down 7% on the week. But really, our competitors, Solana is down 12, Terra's down 9, Cardano down 13, Avalanche 9. Whereas I like to compare it to Algorand. Algorand had a rough week a couple weeks ago, so that's down about 5%. And then where's Phantom? Phantom's down 13, and Hedera's down 10. So it's in line with our main competitors there.
Right.
So
yeah, still kind of in that range. I mean, there's, it's interesting when you get the outliers, right? Because for the most part, you look and the charts are all very similar. You kind of scroll down the line and they all look pretty similar. What's interesting is when you get those ones, you just like, whoa, where is this one coming from? But yeah, just in general, the general sentiment that I'm getting is is kind of flat, a little neutral, some concern, some stuff on the global scene. We're all kind of waiting, with bated breath to see what happens over in Ukraine. We're all just and then of course with the tightening of the Fed, there's just in general, I think for the most part, I see some folks, kind of their hands folded, waiting to see what happens next. But those can be good opportunities in either direction. All right, so we'll move on past the market stuff. I just wanted to get into a little bit of Hbar news. So just in looking at some of the stuff, there's all kinds of good stuff going on. We've got the staking over with Stater. There's Dovu. There's tons of good news out there that we could look at. We've got the foundation doing bang up stuff with metaverse funds, environmental sustainability funds. So there's what are the new ones, Brandon? We got the metaverse, we got sustainability, we've got DeFi. And what else?
Yeah, so sustainability. You have the crypto economy fund, which is the DeFi fund, essentially. You have the metaverse fund, which is the biggest one that you mentioned, and then the final one was just announced last week, is the fintech and payments fund. So that's the 4. Yep.
Okay. So fintech and payments. So any insight into that one? I did watch that interview with Shane, but I hadn't really dug into that particular fund. Any news on that fund, Brandon?
Yeah, there's going to be overlap between these, right? Of course, there's going to be overlap between the metaverse fund and the payments, because of course they're going to utilize a lot of the payments and all that kind of stuff. Sure. And the crypto economy fund, a lot of that is going to also be have overlap with the others. But as far as the payments fund itself, we know that it's going to be critical to have that kind of infrastructure built and ready to go in the Hedera ecosystem. And I think one of the main ones that we want to look at is USDC. USDC is going to be critical in our ecosystem, but it's more than just that. It's also things like, Drop with micropayments and all the other ones that they're going to be looking at. And how much I love micropayments. I think it's a true frontier use case that just wasn't possible before DLT tech, and really wasn't possible until highly performant DLT platforms came along like Hedera. And I think that with the fixed fees, of course, that's something that other platforms can copy. But I don't think they're efficient enough to get the fees as low as we do. But I think it's just going to be a place where we're going to see an explosion of utilization. And Hedera is just lining themselves up perfectly to be able to take advantage. Right.
Yeah. And you're seeing a lot of excitement recently around this X to earn projects, right? Like STEPN has gotten a lot of traction lately. I saw there's another STEPN competitor, Fitment. Right. So there's other competitors, and it's basically following the same model, this do something to earn something. Mm-hmm. And micropayments is just that's so well suited for that. And we've got it in spades. So, and I think we're going to see some nice X to earn projects coming out of the Hedera space too.
Yeah.
Is there any that you've heard? Is there any that you've heard of that you can talk about?
The biggest one that I'm excited about is already launched. It's on, and I forget, I want to say Nog, I forget the parent company, but the game it's a play to earn called Slime World.
Okay.
Has anybody else on the call heard of that one yet?
Yes, I've seen and heard Slime. I haven't played it yet, but I have, but I looked at the website, and yeah, I did dig into it just a little bit.
So I know the company is out of South Korea, but it has blown up in Vietnam. And thousands of transactions per day are getting added through their platform, and you don't know where it's going to come from, right? You don't know where the successful platforms are going to come from, and that's just one of the ones that we've seen so far. And it came out of nowhere, like we didn't even know it was happening. I don't know if they had any kind of support in the early days. I know we're looking at getting them support now because they're being so successful, but they just kind of launched and they're doing a great job.
All right, good.
And again, that's Slime World. Check it out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's one of those I saw it and poked around on the website and just haven't dug in. One of the kind of the negative side of doing being an entrepreneur and being in the crypto space is I find that I have far less time to do the stuff that to do the play stuff and dig into the interesting stuff. The reasons that I got into it in the first place, a lot of those kind of go by the wayside because you're so busy trying to run a business. But but I look forward to checking that one out.
But it also forces you to do stuff, right? Right now, like getting into Stater, and it wasn't difficult. It was actually fairly easy, and I did a tutorial on how to do it.
I saw that. I need to dig into that one too. There's another one. Yep,
it's certainly worth getting into. They're a very professional outfit. Of course, there's risks associated, but they're doing a fantastic job as far as their execution goes. And but it forced me to do that because it was part of something that I'm contracted to do through the foundation. I'm on here, of course, through just as a normal community member, but I am doing some contract work for the foundation as well. And that kind of forced me to get involved. And now I absolutely love it. I think it's a fantastic use case and it's a fantastic product.
Right. So, and if folks out there are wondering why no Stater staking on Wallawallet, well, Wallawallet's only available currently as a mobile application, and the Stater team is not capable of supporting mobile at this time. So, of course, we regrettably had to pass on this little opportunity. We kind of sometimes I think I feel like Rob and I kind of leapfrogged ourselves a little bit out of some of the space because we went ahead and went after mobile. And the trends all point towards mobile, right? But it's difficult, right? And so so we're kind of waiting for others to catch up a little bit. Little penalty for being early to the space, but that's okay. We're patiently waiting, and we know that as soon as we can, as soon as we have the opportunity, and as soon as we can, we'll be supporting all those good things. And of course, we want to have a browser extension too, but time and resources are limited, so we're working as fast as we can, and we'll get there just ASAP.
Well, the fact that you guys are working, you're designed for Hedera goes so far. I mean, you guys are completely focused on making the user experience for Hedera users on mobile flawless, and I think you've done a great job.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate it. And it's getting better all the time. Some great updates coming down the line. So, we definitely hope that people stay tuned. I mean, you see all the comments, and and we take all the feedback very seriously, and we know that we have improvements that we can execute, and we're working on them. And so we look forward to seeing those and appreciate everybody's patience in the meantime. So I'm going to get into some of the Hbar news. So the article that I saw that kind of piqued my interest the most out of the Hedera newsfeed, other than the Stater staking and those things, was really this dispelling Hedera myths, right? So for folks out there that may be watching and may have questions about the Hbar space, some of this may be preaching to the choir. So for those folks that are already familiar, forgive us for this, but basically I thought this was pretty important stuff to cover. So the first myth that they outline here was this idea that the Hashgraph consensus and Hedera services are proprietary. So people see the council members, there was, essentially the code was protected. There was this no fork policy. So that kind of got a little bit of buzz going about, well, what is this Hedera Hbar animal that we're looking at? So important to note that the network services officially supported by SDKs, and every developer tool is open source, right, under an Apache 2.0 license. And the Hashgraph consensus will be open source this year. So there was some protections around the Hashgraph consensus originally, but through the purchase, but the council agreed to purchase the IP from Lehman Baird and Swirls. And so and the consensus mechanism is going to be open source this year. I did, so in tracking and hunting that one down, I didn't see a date. It just said open this year. And when I've kind of followed the link, there was really no, there was no ETA on that. Have you heard anything from the community about an ETA on that, as far as being fully open source?
Is this one to me, Jeremy?
Yeah, or anybody really, Captain Brando. I mean, yeah, Tim. Yeah, anybody. I mean, you guys know the routine. If you got, Tim, Laurent, Brando, just jump in there anytime. But yeah, I figured, Brandon, I figure you're probably the one with the skinny if you got it, if it's out there. So yeah, that one's to you.
I don't think that there's a set date yet. We know it's coming, but I'm not sure when. Just like with so many things in Hedera, I'm not exactly sure when that's actually going to come to fruition. But yeah, it's coming soon, and it'll be good. From everything that I've heard, the positivity from developers on that move, I think it's a good move for sure. And there's as Lehman has outlined, the risk to the network forking are nil now. So, and that when they said, and we can go into all the promises that they've kept while they've been executing, he said that the reason why it was proprietary was to prevent forking, or they said that. And now that there's no risk really of forking the network, they've made it open source. So it proves that what they were saying the whole time, that the reason they put that in place wasn't because they were afraid of competition or anything along those lines. It was because they didn't want to fork the network, because they had seen how much of an issue that could be in the space. So, I was impressed with that.
Right. And one of the things that I liked about when the announcement, when they had, when they talked about the open source, they kind of had this graphic of the Swirl's vision, right? And you've got, on one corner, way up at the top, you've got, the Hedera Hashgraph world and their council members and their nodes. But then you have all these other shared worlds, right? That can interact back with that one. But, essentially the original vision of the shared worlds, with this stuff being open source is a real deal. And besides that, I mean, there's plenty of work to do in the ecosystem without getting your hands directly on the consensus mechanism. And one thing that I noticed, in some of the research and some of the stuff that I did, so just as a little teaser out there, of course we hear a lot about, people wanting to see stuff on Coinbase, win Coinbase, win Coinbase. Well, in watching her name was Haas, last name was Haas, but I don't remember her first name. At any rate, she's the CEO of one of the flavors of Coinbase. Not sure if it's Coinbase Global, or she's a CEO of one organization of Coinbase's and CFO of another. But anyway, her last name's Haas. But she was talking about some of the requirements that Coinbase has for reviewing. They're basically the criteria that they have for these coins. And one of the things that she talked about was being able to observe, being able to get into the code to verify that there was no backdoors, and there was, basically that they could comfortably say that there's no backdoors to this protocol, that it's fully safe. So I have to wonder if that wasn't part of the reason, with the code not being fully open source, that Coinbase was kind of like, we can't really dig in and get our hands on the core of the code itself. And but now that that's changed, right? So now that the code is that it is going to be fully open source, I think we might have some positive news on that horizon. Don't know for sure, don't know when, but that was one of those things that I saw, when Coinbase was mentioning that they have this, they have to be able to scrutinize each platform that they support. That kind of gave me pause, and I said, okay, well, with open source, maybe that's something that'll change. And that also leads to another one of the myths, the idea that developers building dApps on Hedera can't contribute to the project. Definitely not true. There's the HIP process, which is the Hedera improvement process, and that is open. I mean, they encourage developers with open arms. So anybody that's out there, I mean, there is tons of work to be done. It's still early in this platform. It is not too late to get in. In fact, it's still quite early. So they're taking, so they want everybody to come in, and the HIP process, from what I've seen and from our interaction with it and from the other teams that are interacting with it, is, it's a great tool for the ecosystem. I mean, there's a ton of great stuff that's coming out of this. Galaxy's throwing stuff at it all the time. The Hashpack team's throwing stuff at it. Rob and Wallawallet's throwing. So you can see Matt Smithies and the Dovu team. I mean, you can see that everybody that's building in the Hedera space has got access to the Hedera team, to the code, to the tools. It's all there. So that's definitely a myth. Myth number 3 that they got here: Hedera's private permission network for enterprises. It's not. You can download Wallawallet and for free get a Hedera account right now. No KYC, no AML, none of that stuff. All you got to do is find a wallet that's able to generate a Hedera account, and boom, you're on the road. There's a handful of them. Of course, we hope you use Wallawallet. And then it's operated by the governing council, 26 members. Individual that maintain their own individual nodes and data centers and public clouds, ensuring full decentralization of the consensus. And then this year they're planning to allow community nodes, which I'm super excited about. And then, of course, and in the future, the entire network will be permissionless. So currently, if you haven't dug into the path to permissionless white paper, it's all lined out in that paper. So the path to decentralization is real. And just a reasonable approach. It's just a different angle to DLT. The folks, of course, in the Hedera space realize that, but for folks that might be new to the Hedera space and kind of trying to wrap their head around what Hedera is, I think it's important to know this stuff. And then the fourth myth that they get into is Hedera not having performance smart contracts. So if there's anything that Hedera is, it's performant. So I'm looking at 300 plus transactions per second. As far as I know, that's as far as smart contracts go, that's pretty dang performant. I'm not a developer, so I don't want to, put my foot in my mouth and talk about something I don't know that much about. But yeah, 300 transactions per second, it's pretty performant. So and look, we're looking at standards of 10,000, throttled back to 10,000 transactions per second with the native Hedera token service. With the fees are what, 1/1000th of a penny. I mean, come on, cheap and fast. Any comments out there on that, on the myths?
Oh, I have all kinds of comments, but I'll let the other guys, if they want to jump in, they certainly can.
Right. So just talking about the date that we all are waiting for about open sourcing the code. I think that's going to be a huge deal.
Cheap,
definitely
cheap and fast. Any comments out there on that? Hey, Brando. So there we go. I had to mute Brando. Brando, I'll unmute you here in a second. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Tim.
So I was saying it's going to be a huge deal, and definitely when it's done, or they're about to do it, it's going to be all over the news. So you don't need to worry about that. What I like, one thing that's outstanding about Hedera, and what I like, regardless of all the myths that are out there, like the ones you've listed, is I don't believe there is any DLT out there with such a procedural step-by-step vision. I love Mans and Limon, the vision that they have. Definitely, they're not infallible. Definitely, some things don't play out exactly as you would like, because nobody can see the future. There are mishaps in some places, but anyways, in the long term, I think what's going to matter is the utility and the value that's being created on the table. And what you've mentioned about what we've seen about the guys like Dovu and other guys creating real value and even actually helping our planet. This is going to matter in the long run, in 10, 15, 20 years. It's something that ought to motivate us and other people that will going to see it. And definitely we are so early in the space, and definitely but other people will see the value in the long run, and that will even play a huge role in the price of Hbar. Hopefully, my fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And utility is crazy. I mean, over here in Africa, there might be a small problem with information. Hbar it's not that well known in Africa. But on the other side, there's a positive side, because one of the council governors, the African Standard Bank, headquartered in South Africa, then it speaks something positively, because if there are advancements, then it's a channel for people to learn.
Right, and yeah, and we want to have a positive effect on that too. And we've got some projects that we're working on the sidelines that I look forward to kind of bringing a little bit, bringing some light to. And as far as the enterprise, I mean, as far as the approach that Hedera took, I mean, you talk about, Tim mentioned, them having a step-by-step process and basically a well laid out plan. I mean, that's really what attracted, Rob and I from the beginning. I mean, both my business partner and I had worked in enterprise, worked for large enterprise companies for a long time. And there's certain aspects of it that, you kind of, it's a little enterprisey, a little corporate, but as far as where the money goes, right, and what winds up being utilized, right, we came from enterprises. We see what they're capable of. We see the amount of money that they bring to the table and the kind of technology that they're able to bring to the table. And with the path to decentralization, for us, it was just a no-brainer.
Hey guys, you have a YouTube question over here.
All right, what you got, Brando?
So Eli's asking, can you explain again why the forking is not more of a worry, and how will this be prevented?
Okay. Brandon, you want to take that one?
Sure. So, I mean, at this point, there's a low risk of a competitor forking the network, or somebody forking the network and splitting off and not knowing who the actual Hedera is. The council is Hedera, that's controlled through legal controls and everything else. Where back in 2017, when Bitcoin forked into Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, it wasn't as clear. You really didn't know which one was going to be the real. Both of them were claiming to be the actual Bitcoin, and it wasn't until afterwards that it became more clear. But that's the main thing. And of course, like you were just saying, I am not at the heart of this, but that's how I perceive it. It would be a great question to bring up in the town hall and ask Manson Lehman. I'll see if I can get some further feedback, but that's my understanding. Is it's just, you would know which one is the actual network, and there's still significant technical and legal controls around that.
That's a good one. So I'm going to save. So yeah, I'm making note of that one. And that's a great. So as these come, as we get good questions coming in from the community, those are perfect ones for doing rabbit holing and doing some deep dives.
Yeah.
And I would love to get some opinions from some of the other guys as well.
I would like to. Does anybody else have an answer for that one? Anybody else want to feedback? I do want to get into your myths, Jeremy.
Oh yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So what was the first one again? The first one was
the Hashgraph consensus and Hedera's services are proprietary.
Yeah. Okay. So we've kind of hit on that they're moving past that as far as the actual code, Hashgraph itself. That's going to be open source this year. The services have always been open source, so that was never an issue. But you mentioned around Coinbase. I don't think that them actually having to review the code was a barrier, because it's always been open review. They were always able to look at the code and look under the hood. So I don't think that's it. I think it might have been more, but there could be a roadblock as far as the ideological part of it, that the open source movement and all that kind of stuff, and that will be addressed here when we do go full open source. So it could give us the opportunity to get listed on Coinbase. So yeah, that's with that one. As far as the HIPs and just the community members being able to improve the network, it's not limited just to the community. Everyone has to use the HIPs. right? Lehman, if he wants to improve the network, he has to go through the HIP process, and he puts his own out. Though one of the more recent ones was for staking, and everybody knew that staking was coming. Everybody knew that was going to happen on this network. It was part of the roadmap from day one. But he still went through the process to be able to get comments and all that kind of stuff of putting it out HIP 406 and 408 for staking, because he's part of this decentralized network as well. He can't just do things unilaterally. So he goes through the same process that everybody else would. So that's my 2 cents on being, the community being able to improve the network and put out suggestions. And what was your third one?
Okay, see the third one here. We had Hedera's private permission network for enterprises.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is, Tim made a great point here that they're methodical, they're professional. That's what brings all of us to this is they have a path to decentralization that they think is the safest way to launch this network, and that's exactly what they're going to do. And when they say they're going to do something, it might take a while, it might even take longer than we expect, but when they say they're going to do something, it comes to fruition. They make sure it happens. They're not kidding when they say they're going to do something. I know last spring, in the beginning of last year, people were getting concerned because the latency had been creeping up over time. And it had gone from when the network first launched, it was around 4 seconds, 4.5 seconds, and it creeped up. And I think it was over 7 seconds by late last spring. And Lehman comes out, he's like, this isn't a problem. Don't worry about it. We'll fix it. And, everybody's like, okay, we've seen this 2-year trend where the latency has been going up. We'll believe it when we see it. And in August, they implemented it. It has dropped, the latency dropped from 7.5 seconds down to 4.5 seconds, and that's where it's remained since. And then just recently, and this was probably those were the two biggest concerns that I had from a technical perspective was that increasing latency. They said they were going to fix it. They fixed it. The second one was the maintenance windows, right? The maintenance windows at times have been, any place from a half an hour to 2 hours long. And we think about a mission critical application, and you can't have a network going down for that amount of time. From the experts that I've talked to, you can't do that. But from the experts that I've talked to, if you get that down to a few minutes, then it's easily managed. And they said that they were going to get those. Mance actually in December in an interview that I did with him said that they're going to get that down to a few minutes. So it's essentially inconsequential and can be easily worked around even for mission critical applications. And just this last maintenance window, it was just over 3 minutes. Right. So again, they're methodical about things. They aren't going to rush, but when they say they're going to do something, it's going to happen. I feel the same way about the step change. They're going to improve the reducing the maintenance windows even further. There's going to be tweaks and all that kind of stuff all the way along the line, but they're going to continue to improve. And the last one was your smart contracts. Right?
Performance smart contracts. Right.
This has driven me nuts from the very beginning because what naysayers would do is they'd hear Hedera say, we can do 10,000 transactions per second in our throttled form, and we can do a lot more than that. And then they would go through and they'd dig through the white papers and all that kind of stuff, and they'd latch a hold of our smart contracts at the time could do 14 transactions per second. And Lehman from the beginning said, smart contracts are inefficient. They are hard to make efficient. You can do things to tweak things to make them more efficient, but it is difficult. But of course, all the naysayers, the fudders, they would go out there and say, well, 14 transactions per second, even though we could still do currency transactions, HCS at 10,000 transactions per second. And then once HCS came out, we could also do those at 10,000 transactions per second. And of course, us in the community, we're waving our hands back and forth when they would give that bit of FUD. And we'd say, no, but all these other things, these cool things that Hedera can do, you can still utilize at 10,000 transactions per second. I don't know if Lehman was motivated by some of those things, but smart contracts 2.0 come out, and now we can handle smart contract transactions at a few hundred, an order of magnitude above where it was before. But the thing is it's not like Ethereum, where Ethereum has to cram all of its transactions into its limit of about 14 transactions per second. We can just use the couple hundred transactions per second for our smart contracts, just for smart contract stuff. We can still leverage all the things with HTS and HCS and crypto transactions at the 10,000 transactions per second, which is going to increase as well. And he's made that very clear. And that's another milestone that I'm sure he's going to hit as well. We can leverage those things to make the smart contracts even more powerful. So they do a fantastic job as far as when they say they're going to do something and making sure it comes to fruition. And smart contracts is just another example of that.
Right. And the thing, I mean, and when you look at the token service and being able to implement tokens natively on the platform, I mean, suddenly, there are certainly uses for the smart contracts, but I mean, so much of the use for the smart contracts on the Ethereum network is for these, is essentially for the tokens. And I mean, when you've got it natively on Hedera for one thing, one of the things that I like the most about it is the reduced need for the smart contract, or excuse me, for the auditing, right? So without having, with the tokens being native on the platform, I mean, for a small company like mine, to be able to mint tokens without having to go through, expensive security audits on the contracts is huge.
Well, yeah, and Stater had that, right? So Stater has their smart contract for actually triggering the staking and unstaking. But and I know that they've leveraged HTS for the HBAR-X token,
right.
But I'm not sure how much more efficient that makes everything. But I think it's significant.
Right. Well, and next time, and next time, hopefully we'll get one of the techies on the call so we can kind of do a little bit, so we can do a little bit more of the deep dives.
And Stater had that, right? So Stater
there we go. All right. So last but not least, this has been great. I wasn't sure, I wasn't sure if, how we were going to fill up the time. I was thinking, okay, maybe half hour, maybe hour, and we'll see how it goes. But at any rate, so the last couple of things that I wanted to finish off with, just kind of some picks of the week. So just kind of some, some more stuff that's out there that's interesting, and stuff that I highly recommend people check out if they have the chance to. So one of the main ones is this is Calaxy. Calaxy did a webinar on DAOs, so a discussion of decentralized autonomous organizations. There's a YouTube video called Just DAO It, so it's just DAO it. So Calaxy's got a great webinar out there. I highly recommend people go and check that out. The HBAR Bull video with Shane Hignan. Nice insight into the stuff that the HBAR Foundation is up to. Were there any others that you want to throw out? I mean, they're all good, but is there like one in the past week or past month, the HBAR Bull videos that you think, if you're going to watch one, please watch this one, maybe one that's underwatched or one that's just really important?
Well, I think I don't know if you caught the one from Jordan on Friday, but Jordan Freed. He did an excellent job. He pretty much laid things out exactly the way he said exactly what the Hedera community needs to hear, that these things take time, and you should go use the other platforms, if not for anything else, just to see how much more performant we are. But it's also like his platforms. He has NFT.com. That can be a gateway drug, right? That can be, we get them in using, whatever they're using, and then we show them how much more performant Hedera can be. But his stuff around a lot of the influencers that he's brought on board, John Nigerian and Kevin O'Leary, and I'm sure plenty of others, Kevin Pritchard. It's just fascinating when we have somebody like that on our team that is a HBAR evangelist, getting out there, and he can get it in front of some pretty important people. I think that's a good one to watch, and it's a nice long one. It's about 50 minutes long, so cool. It's certainly not one to miss. Yep. Right.
Good. Yeah, and that's one thing I've said from the beginning. Having watched Jordan Freed's, watching how he operates, and basically from the moment that from Hedera 18 on. Don't bet against Jordan and NFT.com. Don't bet against those guys. So, Captain Brando, did you have something you wanted to throw out there before we start to wrap this one up? Are there any more questions that we need to address from the community?
No, I think you guys got all the questions. I'm sorry about that audio feedback. There's a big lag between YouTube and it.
I know it. Well, I asked you to do it. I gave you a tough job. to be both a panelist and to keep up with the community stuff. So we'll make sure that that's a little bit smoother next time. I'll have I'm not sure what we'll do, but we'll make that a little bit smoother next time. But no, you're good.
Yeah, fun stuff, man. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, no problem. We'll be doing it every week. All right. So Hbar Bull videos, and then the last one I did. I reached out to. I got in touch with Warlock and Key of the Hedera Hashcast podcast, and we had a great conversation. He's a Georgia boy, so was cool to meet somebody in the Hedera space that's also here in the state of Georgia. Jim Nasser's up in Atlanta, so we got a few of us, but it was a great conversation. And so I hadn't seen any of his stuff yet. So I watched the one where he was interviewing Wes Geisenberger from the ESG director of the foundation. And within the first 30 seconds, he had me smiling and laughing. So I got to give him some credit where credit's due. The Hedera Hashcast with Warlock and Key, that's another one of my suggestions. And then as far as and then some other the last suggestion that I'll throw out for this week, had a really great conversation with a gentleman by the name of Jay Glasgow, who's in the privacy and identity space, and he's working on this privacy.coop. And he's gotten some, it looks like he's either began a relationship with the foundation, or I'm not sure if he's got a grant. I'm not exactly sure of his, of the status with him in the Hbar Foundation, but they're beginning to support one another. He may have already gotten a grant, I'm not sure, but privacy.coop, highly check it out. So imagine if you could get paid dividends for protecting your privacy. Let that sink in for a second. Protect your identity and privacy with legal representation and get dividends. Look at and listen to this: $25 lifetime membership, right? It's incredible. So and as a plug, so the dividends, first year's dividends were just recently released, $28, right? A modest amount, right? They're very early, but pays your lifetime membership first year, right? Lifetime member, $25. So I highly recommend, I haven't done a deep dive yet. I still got a lot of homework to do, but had a fantastic conversation with Jay Glasgow of the privacy.coop. So I'm going to throw that one out there. If people get a chance, please check out privacy.coop. They're doing some awesome stuff. So give them a shout. And I think that is it for me. What have you got? What else have you got? Any suggestions out there that people need to take a look at? I'll start off with you, Brandon, and then we'll kind of move to Tim and Laurent and Captain Brando.
There's so many good content creators that cover Hedera stuff. Matt Chase and Credible Crypto, and there's just check out their stuff. Bull Flag Crypto is another one. They do a fantastic job. There's so many good interviews, so much good commentary out there that you should check out. You mentioned Jim Nasser, my weekend update. I had an interview with him, so that's another one you can check out. But I don't have too much else. I am excited. I think we're hitting on all cylinders. Don't pay too much attention to the nonsense out there that we see a lot of times. I think that you will see that Hedera will still continue to execute, and those promises they make that you might think are from a bygone era and aren't going to come to fruition, all of a sudden they'll start to pop up. So good stuff.
Right. Yeah, good advice. All right, so Tim, Laurent, Captain Brando, I'm going to open up the floor, and then while you're doing that, I'm going to take a peek and see if I can't find who our jam winner was. Go ahead, Tim.
Right. To everybody, man, woman, child who's out there listening to this live stream, the person or the channel I'd recommend you to. The guy is no stranger. He's actually here with us, Mr. Hargreaves. His channel is amazing. I get to learn a lot of stuff, and the interviews that he does, it's just amazing and very informative and very insightful. So yeah, check out his channel. You'll benefit a whole great deal.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. All right, so we do in fact have our winner. Before I announce it though, Laurent, you got anything you want to add before we close up here?
No, give me a sec. Copy.
Laurent's at work, so.
Yeah, but wait. So I was doing some type of cause or something, because I want to just leave a comment for anybody out there, because Hedera has been one of the interesting projects they've been following. Like the things they're doing. I mean, there is no FOMO or anything. People involved in there is like professional adults. There's like real business, real utility. I mean, like there's nothing out there like Hedera. I mean, like I've been looking through all the other projects, but or other DLT technology, but Hedera just comes out on top because they're just doing it. They're doing what they're saying. There's no FOMO. There's no nothing. They're just going in there and they're bringing you real utility. They're bringing the use of it. I mean, like if you're gonna use anything else, I mean, I'll go with Hedera anytime. And people be like, you're telling people like, hey, if you're gonna go through any other technology, look through Hedera, see what they're doing because they just, I don't know what to say. They're just doing it. Like I'm kind of a little bit jealous about what they're doing because they're just bringing in all these projects, attracting so much attention. When it comes to NFT or metaverse, working with all these other gaming companies, I mean, they're just doing it. So I'll say like, people were so worried about, oh, Hedera. It's not like open source or anything. Oh, look at that, but now they're gonna go and make it, open source. I mean, those people don't have nothing to say about it. They don't have nothing to say about it, but, just look at the real deal, the use of it. And then the utility. I mean, that's all. That's all I wanted to say.
That's it. The utility. I mean, that's why Rob and I are here. I mean, from the beginning, like I said, I mean, we came from enterprises, right? So if it's going to be sustainable, if it's going to work for a long time and it's going to be effective and scalable, I mean, we saw the writing was on the wall. So, so here we are. Thanks, Laurent. All right. So how about you, Captain Brando? Anything before I announce the winner here?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. I mean, I just think it's good to keep in mind that we're playing the long game here. I mean, crypto is growing at over 100% year over year. I think a lot of the pain we're seeing now is largely driven by macroeconomics. It's things outside of crypto that's doing this. And so just manage risk, however you manage risk, and keep doing due diligence and hang on.
Great advice. Manage your risk, right? So next week, I look forward to having Iep Saltic from S1Bit. He's our resident market guru and asset manager, and he's always saying the same thing. Got to manage your risk. So so whatever that means, get out there, do some homework, figure out how to manage your risk the best you can.
Yeah, that's where it starts, right?
Right.
I want to throw one more thing out there before you move on to your winner. And I know we only have about 5 minutes left, but you heard in the beginning of the thing that I have traded and I have sold Hbar at times. I'm acquiring at this point, but if somebody's selling Hbar or selling, that doesn't mean they aren't bullish. They can be tremendously bullish and still, right, have to change their position. I mean, not half of my crypto portfolio, 100% of my crypto portfolio is in Hbar. Half of my actual portfolio is in Hbar. And that's a pretty crazy town position to have, but I'm tremendously bullish and still right now acquiring. So you hear people that real traders that love Hbar, at times they'll sell all out, right, 100% out, and then still promote Hbar all the way through, and then all of a sudden they'll buy back in because that's what they do. They're traders. So when you hear people getting put down because they're selling or they had to do something to start a business or whatever it is, that doesn't mean they're not bullish, right? That doesn't mean they don't believe in the project. That's just everybody has their own position and what they need to do, and we should respect that.
Right.
That also creates new buyers also, because they got to buy back eventually.
That's right.
I'm in that same crazy town with you, Brandon.
That's right. And I mean, and the sellers at times create those fantastic opportunities that we've been able to take advantage of so far. And people selling now are going to be able to take advantage of sellers in the future. So it's all good. That's what makes a market.
You are the Hbar bull. It's not just a clever name. So, all right. So I think with that, the winner. So our winner of the 10,000 Jam token giveaway is Twitter user at @Hbar1000. So Hbar to 1000. So it's at Hbar1000. If you happen to be out there in YouTube streaming land, drop us a message on Twitter and we'll get you some bonus jam. So we like to give bonus jam, a little bonus jam to the folks that if they're actually listening to the live stream. I'm not sure if that made that into the Twitter post, but we'll make it more clear. Like I said, this is the first week we're doing it, so we'll refine this and get better and better as we do this. But all right, so appreciate our Twitter followers, and congratulations to @Hbar1000 for winning the 10,000 Jam tokens. Big shout out again to Andrew Antar and the team over at Tune.fm for helping us out with those promotional tokens. Many thanks to the Hbar Bull, Brandon, for being here. Captain Brando, appreciate it. LaRon and Tim, you guys are awesome. We'll be talking to you tomorrow and probably pretty much every other day of the week. So we'll see you then. And yeah, have a great week, everybody. And we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Ciao.
Yep. See ya.
Yeah, thank you.
See you, Laurent.